What's up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about basic Python syntax, comments, and rounding up with variables in Python programming language. And as you can see, going back to our Jupyter notebook, I have created a notebook here where we have Python syntax, comments, and variables. And let's just assume we're importing Pandas library as PD. Now, Pandas library was a library, is one of these libraries that comes in when you install the Anaconda, just like what we saw in the previous video. So here we are importing Pandas library so that we can get all the packages, the goodies that are inside the library. Okay, there are several other packages that we'll be importing into our Jupyter notebook. Okay, so what we've done here is, if we import pandas, let's just say I take this out. If we import pandas just like this and we run it, it means if we want to run a code in pandas, we have to say pandas dot whatever it is. Maybe read Excel, depends. But writing pandas might be a bit longer than, maybe a bit just too long. So what we do is just import pandas as PD. Okay, so instead of writing pandas here, all you do is come here and write PD. Okay, so of course you have to run this first, then you can come here, run it. So that's the reason why we use PD. Okay, but talking about the syntax of Python, a block of code, as it were, is supposed to be organized in an arranged way. Think of an example here. If you're going to be writing maybe a function, we're going to talk about functions in the future, but I'm just trying to drive a point here. If A plus maybe B equals to C, no, let me say, if A is greater than B, if A is greater than B, what should it do? It should do A plus B, or C should be equals to A plus B, then print C. Okay, of course, you also have defined all this before. When we talk about variables, this is actually what we're trying to say. Here we are assigning variables to each of these. A could be maybe 2, while B could be equals to 3. Okay, so what we've done here is we've assigned 2 as a number to this A. So A here is a variable. Okay, A here is a variable, B here is a variable. The value of B is 3. The value of A is number 2. Okay, so we are defining our variables here. Let's run this. So we'll run this code. So let's go into the next one. So what we're saying here is, if A is greater than B, C will be equals to A plus B. Let me change this to less than, just as a basic example. If A is less than B, C will be the addition of the two of them. So you should print C. So we expect that if we run this code, it's supposed to give us, sorry, syntax error here. Print is supposed to be enveloped in a case in there. So you also saw what just happened. When you get the syntax of your Python code wrong, there is going to be an error. If you notice what happened, then let me just remove this and see what happens. It gives you an error. So it shows you an error, tells you the line of code in line 4. So you can actually trace where your errors are coming from. Why it's saying line 4 is because there's a space all the way into the next line. If I take this out, I'll run it again, let's see what it gives in line 3. So it's telling you that the error is coming from this point here. From this point here. See that? So you're supposed to go there and correct the error. So usually when you're printing, you have to use a regular open close bracket for that. So normally when you type in print and you come to your keyboard and do shift and number 9, it brings out that open and close brackets just by typing it once, shift and 9, it brings it out. Okay, so one other thing is in basic Python syntax, you have to understand what we call indentation. Okay, indentation is, for example, you have a block of code here. Let me take this out. When I wrote if A less than B as an if statement, and I type enter, it takes you to a line, the next line, and it carves out the part it wants you to begin to type from. So what that is telling the computer is this is a block of information that is profiled under this. Okay, so if I want to write another block like else, you see, it has its own indentation. It draws its own line where you can continue to write from. Else could be print, let's say not, no, let's say some that makes sense. A is less than B. Oh no, A is greater than. Just as an example, okay? So let me fine tune these parameters and change this to 5 and run this again. So what I'm trying to say here is if this information is valid, if A is actually less than B, it should execute this block of code. And if that doesn't happen, it should execute this block of code. And that's why you have else here. So you can see when you look at the indentation, if and else are actually on the same line, okay, to show that they are of the same class of instructions. So if it checks these instructions, if it's satisfied, it should run this code. Else, it should run this code. So this indentation is used to group, is to segment your codes. And you know, it makes it more easy to read with your eyes when you see your code with indentations in that way. Okay, so just let me run this again just to be sure. So what we're expecting to see is A, of course, is greater than B. Okay, and if A is greater than B, it means that this first code will be false. And if it is false, it means it's going to execute the second path. Okay, so what we're expecting to see is it will run this code and it will print out what is here. Okay, because this part will be false. This part I've highlighted will be false, so it will go on and print what is here. All right, so let me execute this code and let's see. All right, so that's it. So this is the power of indentation. Makes your code easy to read, and also functions. We'll talk about functions in the future anyways, but that was just a little highlights. All right, so talking about comments. Okay, comments in Python. Comments is usually represented with a hash key. Okay, so I'm not sure the keyboard you're using, but on my own keyboard, you do shift and number 3, you get the hash key. So the hash key, well, comment rather, is used to write extra information. You write extra information. Okay, so if I take this out and I put it here, you know, so I can actually change this, you know, to something more meaningful. Maybe tests if A is greater or less than B. So if someone else comes to read my code, comes to read all this code I've written, if they want to understand or have an idea of what I'm trying to do, they can just come to my comments and read what I've written there. Test if A is greater than B. You know, I've had to write chunks of code, long chunks of code, you know. And so what I do, if I'm going to give that much chunk of code to someone else to work with, perhaps the person doesn't even know what I'm trying to do. What I do is I put in several comments in several places of that code. So when you read the comments, you begin to have an idea what I'm trying to do. So that's one of the uses of comments in Python. But apart from that, you can also write comments. Actually, this is one of the ways you write comments. You can also write your comments in another way, where you go with triple quotes. where you can separate it, especially if you want to write your comments in multiple lines. This will be very, very useful. If your comments will be coming in multiple lines, and so you can do that. So whenever you run your code, the Python interpreter or compiler will not take this the way it is. It will take it as a comment separately. It won't run it as a series of code. So it will skip this one because there's a comment. It will also skip this one because it's a comment and go on and execute what is here, okay? So the comment is just for you as a programmer and other people that maybe might want to read your blocks of code just for their basic understanding. All right, so that's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next video. If you've not yet subscribed, you need to subscribe to this channel. Tell us you like what we're doing. Tell us what we should be doing for you. Tell us if you have a project you want us to work on, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.